5 Sports Extra from the BBC. We're on the BBC Sounds app. First day of the quarterfinals from Roland Garros. Very exciting day in prospect. Martina Trevisan of Italy has already gone through against 19-year-old Leylah Fernandez. 6-3 in the deciding set. Novak Djokovic against Rafael Nadal to come under the lights on 5 Live from 7 o'clock this evening. Before that, here on Sports Extra, Alex Zverev against the other 19-year-old Carlos Alcaraz. And right now, an 18-year-old in Coco Gauff against Sloane Stephens. Annabel Croft, what's your hunch? Which way do you see this match going?
That's a really good question, Russell, because I could make arguments and cases for both of them to win this match, but I'm slightly hedging my bets towards Coco Gauff. I've been commentating on a couple of her matches during the course of the championship so far, and I think she's been very, very impressive, but to be honest, so has Sloane.
Quarter-finalist last year, Coco Gauff. 4th round of Wimbledon at 15. At the age of 18, is she about to set up a first Grand Slam semi-final? She's serving now to Sloane Stephens. A high forehand reply from Gauff. Stephens inside the baseline. She's hit long. A disappointing error from her perspective from the middle of the court. And the first point of this quarter-final match goes to the 18-year-old. She lost at this stage to Barbora Krejcikova, who went on to win the title last June. Very tight first set in which Coco Gauff had a number of set points before losing it on the tie-break. Miscued forehand reply by Stephens, sorry, and Gauff moves to 30 love.
Yeah, I remember that match very well, and she was in control of it. She got herself into such a great lead with those set points, and then just, in her own words, freaked out, didn't she? And panicked a bit, but I think she's learned a lot since then.
30 love. Gauff strokes a forehand down the line. A backhand from Gauff onto the forehand of Stephens. Gauff's forehand. Stephens will hit the backhand down the centre. Gauff with the backhand. Forehand cross-court by Stephens. Forehand from Gauff. Forehand Stephens. Gauff with the forehand down the line. The backhand cross-court from the US Open champion of 2017. And it was deep enough to force the error on the backhand wing from Coco Gauff.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened on that last shot. Coco Gauff's feet stopped moving, and it was quite an exchange between the two of them, and she just got a little bit caught out late with the racket back on that baseline.
30-15 Gauff, backhand reply from Stephens, forehand hit by Gauff. Stephens with the backhand to the forehand of Gauff. They're hitting down the centre of the court here in this first game of the quarter-final match. More great depth from Stephens, but Gauff has found the baseline in return. Backhand hit by Stephens to the backhand of Gauff. Now it's a forehand for the 18-year-old and a much more powerful forehand from Stephens down the line. Lovely winner. She can be very, very dangerous in a position like that.
Yeah, she really can. And what I find fascinating about the way Stephens moves is she sort of glides around the court. She always looks like she has so much time on the ball, but then she loops up certain balls, so she changes the height constantly. Wow.
Ace from Gauff.
Great serve from Coco Gauff. And then after the loopier balls, which might get a shorter reply, she then just pulls the trigger and, you know, real acceleration of power through the court.
She's a lovely player to watch. Gliding is a good word Annabel used around the clay court, but she's mistimed the forehand there. And Gauff holds in the opening game of this quarter-final to 30.
Well, she's a silent mover, isn't she? Sometimes you get a player who's a hustler and you hear their footwork and you hear little steps in between and you can hear their hustle factor on the court. Whereas, you know, it's very quiet with Sloane Stephens. You just never hear the feet moving. She is literally as if she's on a pair of ice skates just going around the court. Very smooth, always in position, always very balanced on her ground strokes. She's a very beautiful tennis player to watch. She makes the game look far too easy.
Yes, that's a nice image. She could tap you on the shoulder, you'd be no idea that she was there.
Yeah, exactly.
So graceful. And a high achiever, very inconsistent, yes, but she's a US Open champion. She'll always be a US Open champion. She led Simona Halep by a set and 2 love in the final here of 2018, the year she also won Miami. But things have been a bit of a struggle since then. Improvements this year, first title in Guadalajara, where she beat Marie Buzkova in the final for nearly 4 years, since that Miami triumph in 2018. A backhand is long by Stephens.
Yeah, it wasn't a great lead-up into this event, was it? After winning in Guadalajara, she had very few wins, and it was all a bit bleak, really, and I don't think anyone would have predicted that she'd get this far in the tournament, because it was sort of all looking as if she'd sort of, well, I always say it's that sort of mind connection to her tennis. You know, if she's not dialed in, then you're not quite sure what you're going to get. but she's surprised quite a few people this last week and a bit.
She can turn the corner so quickly, can't she, with just one win, which she got in the first round against Julie Niemeyer, having dropped the opening set. Forehand here from Gauff. Stevens with the backhand. Gauff forehand cross court. Stevens cross court with the forehand. Gauff will go cross court again with the forehand. A little bit more on that. And now she steps inside the baseline, and that's a good forehand down the line. Racket quite high there.
Yeah. Big loopy take back, wasn't it? I mean, the forehand has always been the side that's a bit vulnerable and you expect it to break down, but actually there's a few matches during the course of the last 12 months that you think actually it's improved and it's standing up to the test, but I guess we'll only really find out where it is when she gets under enormous pressure.
Love 30 down, Stevens. Forehand from Gauff. Forehand from Stevens. Hit down the line. Gauff has the double-handed backhand. A mid-court ball for Stevens. Gauff running onto the forehand, which he hits cross-court. Down the line goes Stevens. Gauff cross-court with the backhand. Stevens cross-court with the backhand. Gauff is there with the backhand. Now forehand into the middle of the court by Stevens, who's suddenly on the defensive and nets on the backhand. Fabulous point by Coco Gauff, who has 3 break points.
Yeah, she's come out of the blocks quickly. She's sharp. The backhand exchanges cross court are really good. And both of them are kind of mirroring each other, aren't they? They're hitting with a lot of pace into the corners, outmaneuvering, like taking the ball down the line. It's, it's a mirror image of each other in terms of what they're trying to do.
Forehand reply from Gauff. Stevens is 3 break points down. She's hit the forehand deep and powerfully. Another big off forehand from Stevens. Now the drive volley from the back of the court. It's onto the baseline. Excellent defence from Gauff, who's just pushed that forehand deep. Now she nets on the backhand, but she is defending well and certainly having the better of the early exchanges, the 18-year-old.
Yeah, so Stevens just turning away, a little bit like Sharapova used to do, walked right to the back of the court. And that's quite a distance between where the line judges are and back up to that service line again. But just took a moment there to compose herself, thinking about things.
15-40 Stevens, so break point down for a second time. First serve into the net. Stevens serves. Gauff with the backhand return. Hit really hard and onto the baseline, down the line, and she gets the break as Stevens go long. So some very good aggressive hitting from Coco Gauff, who deservedly gets the early break and leads by 2 games to love.
Yeah, she looks sharp, doesn't she? And as you've said, Russell, she's defending incredibly well, because some of the powerful ball striking from Sloane, she's clearly come out to be aggressive in this match, but Coco's been absorbing that pace, got more balls back into court so far and breaking down Sloane in those longer exchanges. And it's kind of set the tone for her. Important for her, I think, to get off to a good start, particularly after I think she was a bit disappointed in that match at the US Open. I think she might even have been a bit overawed, actually, playing her.
I think there was an element of that, wasn't there? Good hitting again here from Gauff, and it's forced Stevens very much onto the defensive, and on the back foot puts a backhand into the net. So 2 love, 15 love.
Yeah, I think she almost alluded to that, wasn't it? It's like, well, I've watched her my whole career and growing up with her ahead of me and, you know, having such a big place in American tennis history with winning the US Open, and she doesn't feel intimidated, it seems, today.
Forehand cross-court from Gauff. Another forehand cross-court. Stevens slides into the forehand. Gauff with the forehand. Stevens with a slice backhand. Gauff cross-court with a backhand. This one is overdone, going for a little bit too much. Working the backhand cross-court and missing. Yeah,
that was interesting from Stevens, changing up the pace with the slice backhand. It always has an effect, that, doesn't it? It's interesting to see how people cope when someone throws in a slice or a change of pace, and that just unsettled Gauff then. I wonder if we'll see that come into play again.
Good serve from Gauff, and Stevens can only punch the forehand too long. Sun is coming out again. It's a better day. It's not hot at Roland Garros, but it's getting warmer. The skies are becoming bluer, and I think probably the next 2 or 3 days should be warmer and sunnier. Forehand from Stevens. That was a really poor miss. A miss hit from a couple of yards inside the baseline, and Gauff now at 40-15, 2 points for a 3 love lead.
Yeah, that didn't look good at all, that last forehand. I'm not quite sure what happened there. She hardly put any take back on it and got really tucked up. It got very close to her body and didn't really swing. It was very tight.
Gauff misses the first serve. There's a very exciting match tiebreak in progress to David Law in just a moment. I won't give anything away. We'll see, first of all, if Gauff can win this point and close out the game as she serves at 40-15. Backhand from Stevens, a bit of height on that return. The forehand from Gauff, Stevens with the backhand. Drop shot from Gauff, first one of the match. Stevens is there, slides it down the line. The lob volley from Gauff is just sitting up for Stevens to smash away from very, very close to the net, and the game is still alive. 2-love, 40-30. Gauff serving for the game once again. Misses the first serve. Second serve. Gauff serving, the forehand reply from Stevens. Gauff has the backhand to try and put away. The backhand from Stevens. Gauff with the backhand cross court. Slice backhand from Stevens. Gauff with the slice backhand. Very low cross court, and that's wide from Stevens as we go to David.
Where a fourth match point has just been saved in this match by Dodig and Krajicek, who just will not go away. Joe Salisbury and Rajiv Ram are the top seeds here, but it's 9 points all now in the third set tiebreak. It's a thriller.
Coco Gauff leading by 3 games to love at the change of ends. Back to David for the next match point. Annabelle will give us a thought on what she's seen so far, and I think hugely impressed, as I am, by the way that Coco Gauff has started this match.
Absolutely, Russell. She's just looked so composed. She's looked aggressive. She's striking the ball beautifully right from the word go, and she looks very clear thinking in terms of her strategy, implementing it, and you know, even though they had these long exchanges at the start of this match, Sloane Stevens, too many errors at the moment. He needs to kind of rein it in a bit and tighten up the screws.
She looks more like a player who lost 5 matches in a row heading into Roland Garros than the player who has come through 4 rounds here and looking better and better. Didn't drop a set against Deanne Parry and Jill Teichmann in her most recent 2 matches, but she's struggling at the moment. 3-love, Coco Gauff leads, just the 1 break of serve. The beauty of the tennis tiebreak scoring system is that when it's 9-all, you know somebody's about to have a match point. So, who's it going to be, David?
It is going to be Ivan Dodig and Austin Krajicek, who have saved 4 match points. And, I mean, it's just an extraordinary achievement from them to have stayed in this match. There have been so many incredible lunges and gets and jumps and smashes and recoveries. And now the American and the Croatian find themselves match point up for a place in the semi-finals against Britain's Joe Salisbury and his American partner Rajiv Ram. It's going to be Salisbury to serve here. Down the centre goes his serve. What a return at his feet. He sometimes picks it up to Salisbury. I don't know how. He's hit another line. How did he do that? Now a volley from Ram. A lob from Krajicek. I just do not understand how Joe Salisbury stayed in that rally. He had to pick up the most impossible looking half volley from the best return of the day at his feet. He did so, then he picked up another forehand volley, he put it on the sideline. I'm doing my best to convey it, Russell, but you have to see it to believe what Salisbury just did. It's 10 points all.
It was game, set and match, wasn't it? I was just waiting for you to describe the exit of Joe Salisbury and Rajiv Ram until a little bit of magic from the world number 1. Let's stay with you, David. It's early in the 4th game here. 3-love Coco Gauff with the break, and it's 15-all on the Sloane Stevens serve.
Now Salisbury serves and volleys at 10 points. All the ball's gone over his head. He's had to do a complete 360 and organise his feet to get back in the rally, but he's blasted a forehand long. It's going to be a second match point here in this tiebreak for Dodig and Krajicek at 11-10. They're now high-fiving and pumping each other up. It's not a big crowd inside Suzanne Longlen, but it really deserves one because this is invigorating sport at its best. First set went to Ram and Salisbury 6-3. Second set 7-6 to Dodig and Krajicek. They saved a couple of match points along the way. Now it's a final set match tiebreak, first to 10 points, but we've already gone past that point because you have to lead by 2 clear points, and Krajicek and Dodig now are having a little consultation behind a couple of tennis balls as if they're worried about their opponents lip reading them from about 40 metres away. Here's a serve now. A match point for Dodig, 11-10, to knock out Joe Salisbury and Rajiv Ram. Huge serve by Dodig, and he's got the job done because the return doesn't come back over the net, and Rajiv Ram takes his racket and he smashes it 4 times into the clay court here until it is unrecognisable as a tennis racket. But Joe Salisbury and Rajiv Ram, the top seeds, are out. Brilliant win for Ivan Dodig and Austin Krajicek, saving 4 match points and eventually coming through.
Thanks, David. Very disappointing for Joe Salisbury and Rajiv Ram, and in fact for all the British players. 3 British players in the quarterfinals of the men's doubles, and they've all lost because Neil Skupski and Wesley Koolhof were beaten 6-4 in a decider by Marcel Granollers and Horacio Zeballos. And yesterday there was defeat for Lloyd Glasspool, who was playing with Harry Heliavara. Coco Gauff 3, Sloane Stephens 1. So Stephens is on the board as we bring you this commentary match, this second quarter-final. The winner to play Martina Trevisan of Italy, who was a quarter-finalist 2 years ago and is already a semi-finalist now, despite being unseeded. Drop shot from Gauff. Stephens is so quick, but it was well executed by Gauff, and she takes the first point on serve. I'm watching with Annabelle Croft.
Yeah, that was a lovely drop shot that time, wasn't it? Better executed, more feel on the racket face, and as quick as Sloane Stephens is, wasn't able to get up to that at all. We're seeing a lot more variety from Coco Gauff these days. She sort of brings that in every now and then, not too much, but she certainly added it to her game. I'm also seeing her, well, not in this match yet, but she definitely loves to move forward, doesn't she, and take the ball out of the air, come forward, finish points off at the net. So there's so much to admire in Coco Gauff's game and her repertoire.
Good serve again there. Forces the error from the Stephens forehand. 30-love, Gauff leads. She had a very good clay court season last year, won the tournament in Parma, was a semi-finalist in Rome. She's been steady this year, but it's miles on the clock, just slowly building the foundations for potentially a spectacular career as she moves to 40-love. Again, Stephens can't control the forehand return.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was so tough, wasn't it, when she burst through at Wimbledon and on such a grand stage, and so much expected of her. You know, people expecting her to go right to the top of the game and win Grand Slams and follow in the footsteps of Venus and Serena, and it's really tough out there.
Still made round 4 at Wimbledon last year for the second time. She's playing the drop shot here. Stephens tries to chip it over her head, but running back, putting the smash away is Coco Gauff to hold to love. And she is very much on top in this match at the moment. She leads by 4-1 first set.
Yeah, and it's quite a pacey start, isn't it? The clock's just turned to 17 minutes, and it feels as if it's short, sharp points. And even though they had a few longer exchanges at the start, she's on a roll out here. She's really setting the tone and the pace, and in the driving seat, I would say.
It's easy to forget sometimes that she won a WTA title, her first one, in Linz in Austria at the age of 15. She was a lucky loser coming into the draw.
I remember it.
And that was backing up what she did at Wimbledon. And then things went a little bit quieter for her because the curve of improvement wasn't as dramatic as maybe some people thought it would be. But I think we were all aware that there were some frailties. There was plenty to work on when we saw her play at Wimbledon. And I just think ultimately this is in her best interest, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I think you're right. Building the base of the pyramid is exactly it. And, you know, and I think she has such a lovely attitude when you hear her speak about her tennis. She's very sunny personality and, you know, got her feet firmly planted on the ground, it seems, with so much attention that she's had in her very young years that she's been around. And, you know, there's a lot to cope with, isn't it? It's what we've been talking about with Emma Raducanu. So many people wanting a piece of her, but she seems to take it all in her stride. I think she's doing extremely well.
Stephens swings the forehand cross-court. She's got a very short ball here, the off forehand. Gauff gets another lob on this, and she's reaching for another ball, but this lob will land closer to the umpire's chair than Sloane Stephens' end of the court. And she's made some big calls as well, hasn't she? She's very happy to say when she was sort of 15, 16, I believe I can be the greatest of all time. Her dad has always taught her to think like that, that aim for the top and you may well get there.
Yeah, it is. It puts a lot of pressure on, though, when you make those statements.
Bernard Tomic was fond of saying things like that, but didn't have the game or the mentality to back it up, unfortunately, and didn't have a father that was as supportive, such a positive influence. And it's been quite a sad story how his career has rather disintegrated. Sloane Stephens with a forehand to move to 30-love.
really filling up here in Philippe Chatrier now. It's actually taken a bit of the glare away, hasn't it?
Backhand reply from Coco Gauff. The drop shot from Stevens. Gauff coming to net behind the slice, but she didn't do quite enough with that, and the forehand is hit cross-court by Stevens to win the point. You were getting the glare off the wooden seats, were you?
Well, when it's a little bit emptier, where the corporate seats are and everything, it's such a sort of grey, light grey paint, isn't it, everywhere? And when the sun's out, it really reflects off it and sort of makes your eyes hurt. But when they filled up, it's sort of taken a little bit of that glare away.
Stevens to 40 love. Forehand reply from Gauff. Very nicely struck. Backhand cross-court from Gauff. Stevens is there with a backhand down the line. That was a really good game from her. Best one she's played so far. Holds to love, and still very much in touch here, with Gauff leading by 4 games to 2.
Yes, I think Coco Gauff will not be underestimating, you know, the possibility that Sloane could just turn or flick a switch, turn the screw on, and suddenly all these winners can start coming. And so she's got to be aware. She's got to keep the pressure on and keep her depth on her ground strokes and hang in there as much as she can on the rallies.
Gauff actually lost the girls' final at the US Open in 2017, the day before Sloane Stevens won the title. So they nearly shared a very, very special weekend there. As the 18-year-old serves, Stevens into the net, reaching for that forehand and trying to go cross-court.
Very good second serve that, because that had some pace on it. It was a good low trajectory through the court, and it just took, I think it took Sloane by surprise, because of course that's also the other area that we always talk about with Coco Gauff. Will the double faults come? Will it be a bit wobbly and short?
Gauff has 15 love. Backhand hit by Stevens. Gauff taking a couple of steps behind the baseline, hitting a backhand and now a forehand, and that one of the first miscues on the forehand in this match so far. A couple of pigeons opposite us look to be perched very precariously on the roof.
Spot those?
Maybe they're safer than they look, but I'm actually worried about their safety.
I know, one of them looks like it's about to topple off. I'm not sure I'd like to be sitting under them either. It's a bit precarious down there, isn't it?
Forehand into the net from Stevens. Good serve by Gauff.
There's a few people in the firing line in the support box, aren't there?
You are right. It's hard to see exactly who would be affected, but the roof is pushed back as far as it possibly can be, but I think you could be right.
Yeah.
The president's box is safe, but it is actually one of the players' boxes that may well...
They're in the firing line.
...suffer here. I mean, that would be very funny, wouldn't it? Backhand reply miscued by Stevens. Gauff to 40-15.
More worryingly, that tail's being lifted as we speak.
Yes, and their backsides are very much facing those particular members in the players' box. And they're completely unaware of the fate that might befall them. Second serve here for Gauff. 4-2, 40-15. Only 22 minutes played. Backhand from Stevens. Gauff will hit the forehand cross-court. Stevens with the forehand cross-court. Gauff with the forehand. It's wide.
Oh, just pulling that forehand just a little bit. It's still got that tendency, hasn't it, to sort of tighten up at some key moments. But so far in this match, it has been flowing, but that one right there looked a little tight.
40-30. Yet to drop a set. Coco Gauff in this French Open. She beat the qualifier Rebecca Marino. She beat Alison van Uytvanck. She beat Kaya Kanepi. It was the youngest against the oldest in the draw when they played. And then Elise Mertens in the previous round. Forehand reply from Stevens. It's a little short. Gauff has gone cross-court with the backhand. Stevens cross-court with the backhand now. Slice backhand from Stevens. Gauff with the forehand. Stevens deeper with her forehand cross-court. Backhand for Stevens. She's just pushed this one a little high, but it's a good play. Gauff unable to really take advantage. The backhand cross-court from Stevens. Gauff with a flatter backhand cross-court. Now the forehand cross-court from Gauff. Stevens onto it with a forehand return. Gauff clubs the backhand cross-court. Stevens nets with the backhand sliding into it in an uncomfortable position. Worked around the court so beautifully by Coco Gauff, who leads by 5 games to 2.
That was a terrific last point, wasn't it? Very, very competitive. And at the moment, Coco Gauff is really standing up to some of these longer rallies. And, you know, she had Sloane Stephens pushed quite far behind that baseline and finding the angle on that final finish. And at the moment, even though I would say that Sloane Stephens' ground strokes look a little smoother and they're more aesthetically pleasing to look at, it's Gauff's that are standing up to the test at the moment.
Tomorrow's schedule is out, and this is the plan. It's Veronika Kudermetova against Daria Kasatkina in the first of the quarterfinals. We'll be on the air again at 1 o'clock for Iga Swiatek against Jessie Pegula, the last two members of the top 16 in the women's draw, meeting at the quarterfinal stage. And that will be followed by Andrei Rublev against Marin Cilic. They've gone for Casper Ruud against Holger Rune in the night session. So Denmark against Norway for a place in the French Open semi-final. Coverage tomorrow on Sports Extra from 1 and then from 7:45. And you're with us in the afternoon tomorrow, aren't you, Annabelle?
I am. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it should be really interesting, that match. Everyone's saying, I was talking to a couple of people earlier about Swiatek, and they all feel that it's Swiatek's championships to lose.
Yes. Which is not necessarily great news for her, is it? Because she'll probably be feeling the same. It's hard to shut out those expectations of others. She gets a sense of it certainly when she's in the media conference room. Gauff is long there. Stephens is serving to stay in this first set at 2-5, but she's handled it pretty well. She was in trouble for a bit yesterday, wasn't she, against Zheng Xinwen?
Yes.
A brilliant performance by the 19-year-old Chinese, who had a leg problem, but as she said later, actually the leg problem was the least of her worries in the second and third set. Her period started yesterday and she seemed to have quite bad stomach cramps.
Yeah, very open about that, very honest.
Very matter of fact about it as well, which I like, because it is a subject that needs more attention, but it shouldn't be a big deal. And if players are comfortable sharing it, and it's a personal choice, then say it.
And more and more female athletes are sort of tending to come out and talk about it, aren't they? So, yeah, interesting that she chose to do that.
Service winner from Stephens there. 30-15, serving to stay in at 2-5. Forehand reply from Gauff. Another forehand from her. Stephens hits the backhand cross-court. The backhand from Gauff. Stephens into the net with the forehand.
Yeah, again, that court positioning, if you just look at where they are as soon as the point started, it's Gauff that seems to be able to push Stephens further behind the baseline. She likes to sort of try and absorb the pace back there.
26 minutes played, and Coco Gauff is just a couple of points away from winning this first set. Stephens 2-5, 30 all. Nets. This her most successful Grand Slam. 32 wins for the runner-up in 2018. Backhand return from Gauff. Backhand from Stephens. Gauff with the backhand to the backhand of Stephens. The forehand now from Gauff. The backhand from Stephens. They're hitting quite frequently down the middle of this red court at Roland Garros. The off forehand from Stephens. Now she steps onto the baseline to hit the forehand to the Gauff forehand. Down the middle again goes Stephens. To the backhand of Gauff, and that's into the net from Gauff. And Stephens to 40-30.
Yeah, those kind of points are quite mentally demanding, aren't they? Just hanging in there, not trying to break down, but staying up on the baseline, trying to wait and vie for position. See who's going to be the first to strike out. But you're right, that rally was played mainly down the centre of the court.
It's a good serve this from Stephens, but well worked into the back of the court by Gauff, and the forehand cross-court had to be very precise from Stephens, and it was right into the corner. She holds, and Gauff leads by 5-3. I suppose the other reason, apart from the very personal nature of discussing your menstrual cycle with the world's media, is that players don't like to make excuses if they can avoid it. That's another reason why it's not mentioned. But we're not going to speculate, because that would be wrong to do. So it does really need to come from the players.
Yes, definitely.
If they feel that they are able to say so.
But there's no question that for a lot of females, it would have a massive impact. I think it can't not.
Gauff is serving for the first set here at 5-3. It's a good squash shot forehand return by Stevens. Gauff with a forehand down the line. Backhand from Stevens. Another forehand here from Gauff when she hits cross court. Forehand from Gauff down the line and into the net. Stevens will be fully aware that that is the best wing to be playing to, particularly at a situation like this when Gauff is serving for the first set.
Yes, and we were saying, weren't we, just only a few moments ago, that it would only be under the most immense pressurised moments that we'll find out where the serve and the forehand is.
Forehand reply from Stevens, the backhand from her. Plenty of air on this one to the forehand of Gauff. Forehand from Stevens, again to the forehand wing of Gauff. That's hit nicely down the line by the 18-year-old, who has another forehand to hit here. Stevens with the backhand. She's a long way behind the baseline. Plenty of air on these balls. The players staying 3 or 4 feet behind that baseline. Cross-court backhand from Stevens with a nice angle. Now she hits a flatter backhand down the line. Great response on the forehand from Gauff. A shorter ball now for Gauff. She hits the forehand cross-court. Huge forehand from Stevens.
Really smart, patient point from Sloane Stevens, just waiting for the right ball, just trying to outmaneuver Gauff at the baseline, using those loopier shots, just waiting for that cross-court shot to come back where she could then get it down the line with pace and accuracy. Very tactically astute.
Love 30 down, Gauff. Stevens with a forehand cross-court. Hit with real weight and onto the baseline. Yep, it was. Gauff confirms by just scratching over the mark with her shoe. Brilliant reply from Stevens. And these are now 3 break-back points.
Yeah, and I wonder whether in the head of Coco Gauff it's just coming into her mind what happened last year against Krejcikova.
Forehand from Stevens, the first of the break points. Great forehand down the line by Gauff, and the lob is going to be wide from Stevens. And that was just the right play, taking the attack to your opponent when triple break point down.
Yeah, that was almost a moment of, right, I've just got to take this forward instead of tensing up and being passive out here. Really different pace and electricity on that last forehand from Coco Gauff, more positive.
It's still a second break point for Sloane Stevens to break back. Second serve for Gauff. It's to the forehand of Stevens. Gauff with the forehand, she has shanked it, and we're back on serve in this first set. 5-4. Coco Gauff leads, and Stevens has definitely stepped it up the last 3 or 4 games. After a very tentative, scratchy start, she's putting pressure on Gauff, and Gauff not always able to come up with the answers. The winner to play Martina Trevisan in the semi-finals on Thursday, both semi-finals Thursday afternoon. There will be no more night sessions after tomorrow night. The final 4 days are played in the afternoon only, although the men's semi-finals, I forget the exact start times, they are staggered. I think they try and get a different crowd in for each semi-final, 2 separate sessions, but the second one begins late afternoon, so not a dedicated night session. What do you think about the night sessions generally?
Well, they are exciting, but I just think it's incredibly late to start a tennis match and have, as we were saying earlier, actually I think it was with Naomi, about a player finishing at sort of midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, then doing press, then getting to bed at 3 or 4 in the morning, and then being expected to play, you know, the rest of the tournament there on in. And I just think it's a lot to ask for an athlete. I find it extraordinary that we expect them to play these matches late at night. That's a very late start, isn't it?
It is a late start, and they've been lucky last year and this year. There hasn't been a ridiculously long match that's lasted. I can't even remember a match going past 1 o'clock. But as we know, clay court matches, even with a 5th set tiebreak, could last sort of 4.5 to 5 hours.
Yeah.
It'll happen every now and again, and that would mean that with the first ball at about 9 o'clock, they'd be playing till 1:30, 1:45 in the morning. And as you said, then they've got to do everything else afterwards. And that seems wrong, but they're very, very stubborn about their start time. It's obviously what Amazon Prime and the television companies want, and I think they like the fact that it's nice and light, and then dusk falls, twilight, Paris, Eiffel Tower in the background. It looks great on television, but it is very, very late indeed if you do get a really brutal long men's match, and they are almost exclusively men's matches, as has been made very clear over the first couple of years. Just 3 women's matches out of 20 on the night session in the first 2 years. 15 all here. Sloane Stevens serving to stay in this first set, having broken back 4-5. catches the ball toss. Sun's out on the Philippe Chatrier court. We're live on BBC Sounds on 5 Sports Extra. Forehand from Stevens. It looked like she wasn't bothered at all there. Really little intensity. That's the way it often appears with Stevens, who's gone across court with a forehand. Lovely angle, hitting the sideline, and the lob from Gauff is over the baseline.
Another terrific angle that she's finding them constantly now from Sloane Stevens. It's a tactic that's definitely working, and actually I've just noticed there's a third pigeon that's joined the action.
They are lining them up. Lining up the Sloane Stevens box there, aren't they?
It's going to come from a great height.
You are relishing this, Alan. Yeah, if you're disappointed, I don't know how we're going to make it up to you. The backhand from Stevens to the backhand of Gauff. Now the big forehand from Stevens, and there's plenty more revs on these shots now. She's woken up, and she's woken up in the nick of time. 2 game points for 5-all.
Well, amazing hitting. I mean, she's just taken a game to another level. And this beautiful strike right out of the centre of the strings. Beautiful into that corner.
Stevens down the middle with a very good first serve, and it's into the net. First bounce. Stevens levels. 5 games all. First set.
Yeah, it just feels like she's woken up. I mean, so often we watch matches with Sloane Stevens and you look, or she looks as if she's totally disengaged from everything and kind of almost just going through the motions in matches, and yet suddenly she'll just find this extra gear. And Coco Gauff's just not flowing the way she was.
The backhand hit by Gauff, who is 5-all, having been 4-1 up. She's serving again. The backhand from Stevens, the forehand cross-court from Gauff. Stevens with a forehand down the line. Gauff cross-court with the backhand. Stevens with the slice backhand into the middle of the court. Gauff hits the forehand cross-court into the corner. Now she's got a short ball. She'll play the drop shot. Stevens is there. The attempt to pass down the line on the forehand works for Gauff in the most fortunate of circumstances. It hit the tape. It sprung over Stevens' racket, and it landed on the baseline.
Yeah, that was a little fortunate, wasn't it? It was a wonderful point from both of them, actually. Sloane being pulled up the court. Nice slice to kind of come forward. Was in position there at the net, but Coco Gauff with that let cord, and it landed on the baseline, her shot.
Gauff has 15-love. Big forehand from her. The lob from Stevens. Gauff will let it bounce. She'll hit the forehand down the line, which is just past Stevens. Well played. She moves to 30-love.
This is a good response from her, from the 5-2 lead, pegged back, and now really refocusing, recomposing herself. Looks like she's trying to do a few different things as well, changing up the tactics a bit. I think she'd got into a bit of a rut.
30-love. Forehand cross-court reply from Stevens. Gauff with a pushed forehand down the line. Backhand with heavy slice by Gauff. Stevens cross-court backhand slice. Same shot played by Gauff, and it enables Stevens to go down the line with the backhand. Forehand from Stevens wide this time as she goes cross-court.
Yeah, she's changing up the pace and just throwing in some junk balls, some slices and lower balls. She's definitely had to change things up to get things back on track again, and it's paying off. I think Sloane was getting into her rhythm and finding it a little bit comfortable for a few games there.
Backhand reply from Stevens. Gauff down the line with the backhand. Great game, having seen a 4-1 advantage disappear so quickly. She's held serve to love, and she leads by 6 games to 5 now. And I wonder if she's thinking of last year, because she had 5 set points in that first set before losing it on a tiebreak to Barbora Krejcikova. But if she is, she's put it out of her mind wonderfully well there to hold serve to love. Talented sporting family, the Gauffs. Dad Corey played basketball for Georgia State. Mum Candy was an excellent gymnast, very, very good runner. And I don't quite know how her brother Cody's baseball career is going, but he seemed like a high flyer. Certainly a couple of years ago, when he was 10 or 11 years of age. Coco Gauff herself was very, very quick. I remember her mum saying once that when she was 3, she reckoned she could out-sprint her 10-year-old cousins. But tennis is her chosen profession, and I think she's made a pretty good choice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, she just seems to love the fight, doesn't she? She brings a lot of joy onto the court. She, she's a great mover, great athlete. I mean, technically, I think there are some little glitches in there, but she seems to work extremely hard to kind of overcome them. And she's got a very strong mind, a great competitive spirit.
5-6, Sloane Stephens again finds herself in the position of serving to stay in the set, and that wasn't particularly convincing. That backhand is long, and she's love 15 down. .39 minutes played. 5-6, love 15. Backhand return from Gauff. The forehand from Stephens. Backhand Gauff. Stephens with the forehand. Forehand from Gauff. Stephens is lining these up, hitting them as hard as she possibly can. Gauff soaking it up from 4 feet behind the baseline. Forehand from Gauff. Backhand Stephens. Gauff with the forehand cross court. Stephens with the forehand cross court, and that is long. And suddenly it is love 30 on the 25-year-old American's serve, and the 18-year-old American is 2 points away from taking the first set.
Yeah, that really ballooned over the baseline and left the strings pretty quickly.
There's definitely been another shift, hasn't there? 6 points in a row won by Gauff. And Stephens now looks a bit anxious. Love 30 down. She's got a short ball here. Hits the forehand deep. The lob from Gauff. The drive volley from Stephens. Hit back at Gauff. Now the backhand into the net on the drive volley from Stephens. And the conviction of recent games has just disappeared. And Coco Gauff, defending superbly again, has 3 set points.
Well, that was an incredible point, because Sloane was completely in charge. She was at the net. She had a ball right on top of the net, but just the ability of Coco Gauff to keep asking questions, getting one more ball back. She's earned herself these set points.
It's onto the service line from Stephens. She's set points down here. The first of 3. The very high return from Gauff lands in. Stephens has to let it bounce. Returns on the forehand. Backhand by Stephens. Gauff with the forehand. Stephens with the backhand down the line. Gauff with a forehand to the backhand of Stephens, who's 3 set points down. Backhand cross court just wide from Gauff.
Oh, I thought she'd made that. Looking for the angle once again. A lot of tension all of a sudden. You can feel it around the court. There's so many more people in their seats now. There's kind of a bit more of an electricity about the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a slow burn, hasn't it? But the court is filling, and this is a second set point for Coco Gauff. It's a good forehand return. The backhand by Sloane Stephens. Backhand from Gauff to win the set. Winner. 7-5. The 18-year-old takes the first set in her second Grand Slam quarterfinal, her second in a row at Roland Garros. And she's 1 set away, therefore, from the last 4 of a Grand Slam for the first time in her career. She's been a girls' champion here. She's made a lot of headlines in a short space of time. A set to the good. And fascinating how things changed at the end there, Annabelle, because Sloane Stephens looked the more likely, didn't she? She suddenly cast off those nerves. She was going for a shot, and then she really retreated into a shell. And you've got to give Gauff a lot of credit for that, because when it was 5-all, she just flicked a switch and suddenly became a more aggressive and confident and accurate player.
Yeah, it was extraordinary. I was just starting to think, gosh, same again. You know, I underestimate Sloane Stephens at my peril, because, you know, you think she has this ability just to turn matches around, and wasn't to be. It was almost like that. Yeah, as you say, Coco Gauff found another gear. I think she introduced a little bit more variety with some angles herself, some slices. She came forward, she used the drop shots, you know, just suddenly unsettled Sloane Stephens. But it certainly didn't look like that at one stage at 5-all, that's for sure.
So far today here on BBC Sounds and Sports Extra, this is day 10 of our coverage of the French Open. Martina Trevisan has beaten Leylah Fernandez 6-3 in the deciding set, so she's awaiting Coco Gauff or Sloane Stephens in the semi-final to come after this. Alex Zverev against Carlos Alcaraz on 5 Live tonight from 7. It's Novak Djokovic against Rafael Nadal. And in the doubles, defeat for Rajiv Ram and Joe Salisbury, who had 4 match points but lost a match tie-break 12-10 to Ivan Dodig and Austin Krajicek at the quarter-final stage. And also for Wesley Koolhof and Neil Skupski, who lost a deciding set 6-4 to Marcel Granollers and Horacio Zeballos. And defeat for Lucy Schuker in the first round of the wheelchair singles, losing a deciding set 6-1 to Jiska Griffian of the Netherlands. Set number 2 now, live from Roland Garros, live from the Philippe Chatrier court with Annabelle Croft and Naomi Cavaday.
Thank you, Russell. It is an intriguing match, this one, isn't it? Sloane Stephens, one of the most deceptive players out there with her movement, as you've been talking about, Annabelle, and also just in general her form. You never quite know what she's going to be able to pull out the bag, but looked a little better towards the back end of that set. So even though Gauff was able to take it, when you've got a player who does make a bit of a comeback, it almost feels like even though Gauff got the first set, the momentum slightly with Sloane.
It feels like it evened out, that's for sure, and that Sloane is going to be very, very dangerous, particularly at the start of this second set. So Gauff needs to try to keep up her level, not have any drop-offs or concentration lapses. She needs to keep that momentum going. But you definitely feel as if Sloane Stephens might be a different competitor in this second set.
Gauff is serving in the first game of the second set and went with pace to the body there and won that point. So it's 30-15. And Stephens is somebody that I don't think anyone can figure out. I don't think anyone even on her team knows.
I think that's right.
What's going on with Stephens from one day to the next. It's definitely a roller coaster for a Sloane Stephens fan.
Yeah, and also she has very different body language these days. There was one point in her career where it was so negative you thought, why are you doing this? But actually she's very quiet and calm these days, isn't she? She doesn't give away any emotion at all.
Forehand from Gauff goes into the net, so it's 30 all. I'm just so fascinated by her movement because she's so relaxed. She sort of saunters to the ball, but it is so fast.
Yeah.
She's so quick around the court.
Mesmerising.
But there's no intensity about it. There's no intensity or muscle. She also can crack the ball, but again, there's no muscle. She barely grunts at all. It looks like she's just having a nice knock around in the park.
I find her mesmerising to watch, just the way she, as we were saying with Russell, glides around the court. It's like she's on sort of roller skates or ice skates, and that's a bit vulnerable, that second serve. She was going for a really big second serve out wide.
The double fault from Gauff can be an issue for the 18-year-old American. Has had periods of time where it has really crept up on her. So it's a break point for Stephens for an early lead in set number 2. Big backhand from Gauff cross court, plays the forehand deep, trying to wrong foot Stephens, but she just moves so freely. She's never off balance. And here comes the backhand from Stephens, just going to roll this cross court. It's Gauff who's trying to push more, and she does force an error from Stephens.
Yeah, I was surprised Stephens got locked in a cross-court to cross-court backhand sort of rally there, because, you know, obviously she needs to get to that forehand as much as she can, but not too much. If you overplay it, you play them into form and it builds confidence, but it's going there enough times to try and get into the head of Coco Gauff, but she went really all out to the backhand, which is such a great shot.
Juice, and it's a deep backhand from Gauff, who now plays the forehand to the backhand side. She's really peppering that backhand side of Stephens. Doesn't want to go to the forehand, that can be quite dangerous, and inject pace, because here's the forehand of Stephens, and it really does do a huge amount of damage. Has one to put away, can't quite. Gauff just misses a little bit wide. She wants the mark check, but it was wide. Umpire's not particularly keen to get off his chair.
No. I'm surprised, actually, because I was with her, actually. I kind of thought, oh, she might have just snuck that. It wasn't the cleanest hit. She came a little bit on the inside of the ball, and yet I thought it might have been worth a check, but he wasn't very keen to get down off his chair, was he?
So it was called wide, and it's another break point for Sloane Stephens. Plays forehand return, does well through the middle of the court, and just sort of steps into the backhand. Not really many adjusting steps around the ball. She just gets somewhere near the shot, and it's fine. Tries to inject more pace on the forehand and misses. Bit of a reaction there from Stephens after that miss.
Yeah, it's the first bit of irritation from her, indicating that she wasn't going up to the ball, getting forward. She just gestured with her hands back towards her support camp.
Juice. could be a crucial game when it comes to Coco Gauff, as she plays a drop shot. It's not that good, and Sloane Stephens does saunter up but gets there in plenty of time and puts the smash away.
Yeah, Coco's reaction about that, very irritated. She's taken the ball off the ball kid. She sort of snatched at the ball in irritation, and it wasn't the right shot, was it? Not a good execution of the drop shot. Bit of panic setting in there.
Advantage Stephens. Third breakpoint opportunity. Plays the backhand through the middle of the court. It's good depth though, and Gauff is hitting off her back foot on the forehand, trying to work it back to the backhand of Stephens now, and Gauff injecting the pace on her backhand side. She's definitely the more aggressive of the two off of that backhand shot. It's a short ball now for Sloane to attack on the forehand. Oh, she injects some pace down the line, and Gauff didn't see it coming because there was no signal that that was coming, and Stephens with the break early in set number 2, and it sort of felt like it was going to go that way, even though Gauff managed to hold on to the first set.
Yeah, it felt like Sloane was pushing Coco Gauff into more defensive positions, and that last ball finally was a little bit late, and that's what it takes on a clay court, isn't it, Naomi? That, you know, sometimes you have to have such a different mindset about how to win a point. You have to be prepared to go the long distance in rallies, hang in there, dig deep, fight, you know, work is what it's, you know, underlines, isn't it? It's like work for the point, and Sloane was prepared to battle for that first game.
Yeah, you can sometimes get a feel as to where Sloane Stephens is at in the early stages of a match, because it can hit some just wonderful heights. I think back to final she played, I think it was 2018 in the Canadian Open against Simona Halep, one of my favourite matches I've ever seen. It really was counter-punching baseline tennis at its absolute best. And then other times, she's just flat as a pancake.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, you just don't know what you're going to get.
15 love from Stephens, but she feels pretty locked into this tournament. Serves to the forehand of Gauff and plays a backhand through the middle of the court. Gauff is just leaning off on her forehand now. She's not really hitting through it, but she does hit through her backhand really nicely. Picks up a low ball, and actually Sloane Stephens slips there. Lost her footing, and it was a winner from Gauff.
Yeah, she actually had to put her left hand down on the surface just to sort of stop herself from falling over. So she's gone across to her towel to wipe down her hand. Coco looked a little concerned, just checking that she's okay. Great pickup from Coco Gauff, because that was a little awkward, that forehand. She had to go over the high part of the net, and she really controlled the ball up the back of the ball, brushing up.
Yeah, difficult on those low balls. A lot of players just get caught out wanting to hit it hard. You can't really get it up and down if you hit it hard. Forehand from Gauff at 15 all, and it's not a great forehand from Stephens. She got that set up all wrong, and it went to the very bottom of the net. Yeah,
and she's just scrubbing out where she had previously slipped over with her feet. So I think she's a bit unsettled after that, which is understandable.
Yeah, she didn't completely tumble. Just as you said, had to put her hand down, and you could hear her explanation as she was surprised that she was in that position and lost all her balance. She served wide, right to the sideline. Gauff does pretty well out of that backhand corner to get back to a neutral position here. And Gauff is really stepping on that backhand nicely. It's a wonderful shot, and there's a winner. Beautifully struck on the front foot. She really extends through with the racket so well.
That was like a wrecking ball going through the court, wasn't it? Like a pendulum. Absolutely beautiful. Just a very easy take back, and just used the pace of the shot, and beautiful timing. Couldn't even see that coming. So 15-40, Gauff with some chances to break back here. Forehand from Gauff goes high. She's not really doing a lot with the forehand, but it's the backhand that's doing the damage. So Stephens is going to the forehand. It's a low forehand slice from Gauff. Stephens just almost walks into the net and is passed because she left the spaces. She didn't close down. You've really got a motor if you want to come forward. And Gauff, with a fantastic passing shot, levels it up at 1-1. Well, that was absolutely beautiful, that point, wasn't it? What a finish to that game from Coco Gauff. Lined it up, and yeah, just had all the answers there. Very good response once again. She's becoming much more mentally strong, isn't she? She's sort of very mature for somebody so young in terms of how she deals with different situations in matches and just tournaments generally. I think she's really sort of getting a hold of everything mentally.
Yeah, I love watching her now. There's still a couple of technical issues. Serve is better. She has less matches where the double faults get out of control, but it still can creep up on her. Forehand as well technically can get away, but it's all in development. Big forehand though from Gauff. She does open up on one, but Stevens has found the baseline and then plays a nice clean strike on her forehand cross court. It's a backhand slice from Gauff, staying down low, but it doesn't bother Stevens as she's just working the ball around. But then the depth just forces Stevens to hit a late shot, late contact, and it goes wide.
Excellent slices and different variety that Coco Gauff has brought into this match. You know, early on she started to play some different, even slice forehands as well as the slice backhands. And, you know, there's a lot more going on, I think, than just, you know, good quality ball striking at the back.
15 love. Gauff serves to the forehand of Stevens, attacks a forehand inside out, and then has to retrieve quite a lot of depth because the counter punching ability from Stevens is really on display here. And she's getting a hold of this rally as Stevens, and then she finds really, really good depth. But both of these players just not letting the other one progress in the rally. Good depth again from Gauff. She's got a low ball to attack on the backhand, and Stevens is trying to hang into this rally now, and she can't. Gauff finds the winner just inside the baseline. Good tennis, that.
Oh, it's just brilliant, isn't it? Again, just absolute forcing play from Coco Gauff. I'm completely fascinated by her forehand at the moment because it's such an enormous backswing. It's a big, loopy sort of backswing, but she lines up the ball and she's getting that ball out in front and really getting a good strike on it.
Yeah, definitely a reason why she's liking the slower surface here of the clay, because she's got that little bit more time to get through that big swing, as you were saying, Annabelle. She's now on the defence on the forehand side because Stevens is trying to crank up the pace and she forces an error. It's an error from Gauff.
It's like a windmill, the way the racket head goes back. It goes right above her head and then back into a big loop and then an acceleration with the follow through. But it's one of the biggest loop sort of takebacks I've seen.
Yeah, it very much is. And it's something that you do see a lot with juniors, very young players, and then as they get older they sort of tighten up because you're under so much more time pressure, players playing closer to the baseline with more pace. It's an ace from Gauff. She likes that at 40-15. But it's hard, isn't it, to work on the technique when you've done so much winning so young, and sometimes you don't have the time.
Well, yes, and also she won't have time on a faster surface. So if you think about sort of grass, slippery grass, or really fast hard courts.
Big forehand from Stevens. She plays a half volley in the middle of the court and goes a little bit long. So it's a hold for Gauff, and she's up 2-1 in the second set. Won the first set 7-5. 56 minutes on the clock. Things going nicely for the younger of the two Americans. But yeah, it's a fascinating area of her game. I mean, definitely on a grass court or a faster court, you're just going to be trying to go depth to the forehand as much as you can and try.
Well, you'd think so, and also even slices down low, which are aggressively hit. You know, with such a big loopy backswing, that racket's got a long way to go to then get down and underneath a ball that's slicing. I mean, she's definitely worked extremely hard on it, and I think, as you said, Naomi, that on these courts, a bit slower, it's high bouncing. She's got time for it, and it seems to be working really well for her. But you have to think about other surfaces. As a tennis player, you've got to be able to adapt to everything, haven't you?
Yeah, and she's had to do some adapting very quickly, bursting on the scene at just 15 when she qualified at Wimbledon, beat Venus Williams. And then she picked up a title, as Russell was saying, in Linz as a lucky loser. That was a big victory for her, and she would have been only 17 when she was 16 when she won that, because that was 3 years ago. I can't even keep track. 15, 16, it was very early. It was earlier than either of the Williams sisters did, and the hype around that as well was huge. But now it just feels like the deals are done, the entourage is gone, because that was getting out of control at one stage. It was just rows and rows of people with Call Me Coco shirts on. Don't know how she managed to get the tickets.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
not easy to get tickets as players.
No, definitely not.
But she's 2-1 up, playing Sloane Stevens, and it's Gauff sliding into a defensive backhand, but Stevens is just going to swipe away the forehand. It's 15 love. Slightly overcast now, sun's gone in, temperature's just dropped a little. few hats around.
Yeah, there's a lot of hats actually, and they're very smart hats, aren't they? Everyone seems to be wearing exactly the same hat.
Oh, everything's stylish at Roland Garros, isn't it?
It is.
Definitely win the style out of the 4 slams. It always makes me just want to dress that little bit sharper.
Yes, I know, that's true. It's sort of got an Ascot feel to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's a fabulous place. Stylish grounds, stylish courts, everything immaculate. It has a distinctive feel. It's an error from Stevens, so it's 30-15. BBC 5 Live Sports Extra, Annabelle Live Sports Extra. Annabelle Croft alongside me, Naomi Cavaday on court, Philippe Chatrier. And with all the neutrals around, just the vibrancy of the court is just so great. It's one of my favourite things about tennis, that visually, we come from this beautiful bright orange and then we're going to go to the lush green grass, and it's always changing. Second serve from Stevens at 30-15, and it's a net cord that goes wide. So 30-all. Quite different demeanours, these two, and how they walk around. A bit more intensity from Gauff, quite a bit more purpose to her walk. 30-all. Serve from Stevens, misses in the net. She reached the final here just a few years ago. Never quite sure when a Stevens run is coming, but she's very much on the way at the moment. Misses a backhand there though, and now Gauff is threatening to take hold of this second set. Break point. Coco Gauff, can't believe she's still only 18. Feels like she's been around for so long. She's been picking up all the experience that she needs. Backhand from Stevens goes deep and pushes Gauff back on her forehand side. Neither one going for too much pace in this rally. It's a break point for Gauff as she plays the backhand cross court, and they're just feeling each other out. Gauff's just going to sit on that backhand side. Now she goes to the forehand, and Stevens comes up with much better angle on the forehand, but Gauff does even better with the angle and then opens up the court and then finds a backhand into the space. A really nicely considered point from Coco Gauff, and she breaks for a set and 3-1.
Yeah, really, really impressive stuff. And actually it was almost the first angle from Sloane that actually got her caught out, didn't it? Because it was a better angle that came back. And sometimes you can use the angle of someone else to actually send something back with even more interest. And then, of course, she opened up the court once again for the backhand. So the player that started that was Sloane. What a really fantastic, sort of mentally strong performance this is from Coco Gauff. Particularly as she'd been broken in that first game and then has come right back at her really strong.
So impressive. That's an ace. Oh, lovely carve away. That's unreturnable landing. So short up the box, swinging into the side.
Wasn't that clever? I mean, that's a really acute angle. That was literally halfway up the box, but with a real swing round the side of the ball.
Tries the flat one this time. Just over an hour now on the clock. And Gauff firmly in control. Now, Stevens did make a charge back in the first set. Wasn't quite able to make a full comeback. She's going to have to do something similar here as she trails 3-1 and 15-love. Backhand from Stevens goes deep into the corner. She's striking it nicely until she hits the forehand in the net.
Yeah, real frustration down the other end now. And running out of time. I mean, she needs to find that gear she found at the end of the first set to get things back on track, because Coco Gauff's starting to look more and more comfortable. She's standing up and serving quite quickly now as well. She wants to get on with it.
Yeah, she's got the momentum firmly behind her. 30-love. Gauff with a double fault. She went big on that serve.
Yeah. She does have a sort of deceptively big serve, doesn't she? It's huge when it connects. And she can really bang down some pace.
Yeah, it's improved out of sight over the last couple of years, that shot. Very impressive. She's clearly worked very hard on it. Serves to the forehand of Stevens, and then It's Gauff playing a forehand in the middle of the court. She's just peppering that backhand side. She's going to go back to that backhand side once again. But Stevens managed to run around it and play the forehand. But the baseline is found from Gauff, and Stevens has been pushed back, and now there's a shorter ball for Gauff to attack, and she does so into the corner. A little tentatively, now has a little short angle slice that she's playing, but Stevens is there, plays down the line for a winner.
I think tentative is the right word, Naomi. You know, there was one ball there which another player who has a fabulous forehand might have just taken control and hit the winner even. But she is a little bit tentative on some of those higher balls. You know, it's just not her favourite shot. I think technically, I don't think she has the capability to really hit out with that forehand. Backhand, yes, definitely. Now, that could be a big moment, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could be. Stevens will take any opportunity to get back in this match. It's 30 all, and she's got a second serve to look at. Second serve is good to the forehand, and the forehand of Gauff goes deep with a little bit more height on it. Stevens doesn't like it. Now Stevens is picking up a low slice, and Gauff, to be honest, it feels like she's quite comfortable in her level. She's 40-30 now, but it doesn't feel like she's
not stressing.
Redlining. Yeah,
no.
She's just playing
Within herself. And I think that experience last year where she had the set points against Krejcikova really was upset that the match just didn't go her way. She said, I used to freak out, I used to panic, and if things don't go my way on a big point, I'd have a complete panic attack. Whereas she said, now I just take it in my stride and I just know what I have to do to get things back on track. And I think we're seeing evidence of that today. Doesn't like that ball toss. It is a second serve, and not surprised double fault came in. That's the third now. All three have come in this set. That's always a worry, isn't it? How quickly can she put that behind her? Because it's the fact that they go into the net, which always feels horrible, doesn't it? When it sort of dumps into the bottom of the net, it's not a positive double fault.
Oh, but she does well with the first serve on the next point at deuce and plays the forehand cross court. But Stevens fires off a winner. Seemingly out of nowhere, she just decides this point's done. I'm just going to swap this down the line, on the line, and she's got a break back point.
Well, no wonder Gauff has been just trying to stay away from that forehand as much as possible, because when that can be unleashed the way that just was, it's like waving a magic wand down there.
Yeah, it's so explosive. And there's no tell. You know, some players you can see they wind up, they load more to inject the pace, and nothing at all. It just looks like a casual forehand, and then all of a sudden, bosh. It's an error, though, from Stevens, and she doesn't like it. She looks at her camp. They're all nodding. They're all clapping, saying, you've got this.
That was surprising, that last error, wasn't it? Having worked so hard to get the game point, heading across a free point like that.
Serve to the backhand this time from Gauff, who now plays forehand down the line, peppering into that backhand side. Oh, and then just a little bit of a nervy forehand. She got it all wrong with her body rotation and missed long.
Yeah, she sort of squared up to the court there, didn't stay rotated, and also lifted up through the follow-through and instead of staying with the ball.
Break back point once again for Stevens. We'll get a second serve to have a look at. She hasn't really got on these second serves. It's a good one, though, from Gauff to the forehand of Stevens, who just sort of jogs out to the sideline and plays the backhand cross court now. And then she plays the forehand with a bit more pace. She's coming at Gauff here. She's looking for the break back. She's going to try and fight her way through with pace, with power, and she just misses because good defence from Gauff, soaking up that pace, made her play one more shot, found some depth on the ball, and Stevens once again ranting to her team, back to deuce.
Yeah, she needs to keep it away from that forehand as much as possible because it is explosive, it's powerful, it's got sort of shock tactics about it. It's quite a venomous forehand at the moment, and no wonder she's trying to keep going to the backhand.
It's a little bit unusual, I think, on the women's tour. It tends to be the backhands are a little more dangerous, but Stevens very much focuses on the forehand. Second serve, and the reply is deep from Stevens, who now plays through the middle of the court. She's not really putting much on her shots. That's a bit more of a cleaner strike as the forehand goes cross court. It's good quality hitting, the pair of them with a similar level on the ball, but then the defensive backhand slice from Stevens goes long, and she smacks her thigh with her racket in pure frustration, and I reckon that hurt. Looked like it hurt.
Yes, it did, definitely. Yeah. Not enjoying coming out second best on some of those exchanges that they've had where they're really belting the ball at each other.
Wow, the level that she needs is so close. She knows she's capable of it. We've seen her play at levels far higher than this. But when you don't come in with the form, it's very difficult to just find a new level. It's a double fault from Gauff, though, and this is starting to become a bit of a problem. And I think it was Roland Garros last year when she played a match with quite a lot of double faults. I've seen matches where she's hit 20 plus. That one, at least, Annabelle, didn't go in the net. It did go a little bit long, so maybe more of a positive one. But it's back to Deuce. Can't wriggle out of this game. Forehand return from Stevens is good. She's got a shorter ball, but she doesn't really step on it. And it's high and deep defensive from Gauff. And Stevens has found the sideline with her backhand, and then she injects some pace on the forehand side. But good depth found by Gauff. Again, soaking up this pace so well. Backhand down the line from Stevens is a clean winner.
Yeah, interesting point, that last one, where great depth, great accuracy from both players, and then suddenly Coco Gauff just threw in the sort of choppy slice, trying to change things up, but actually it was a little bit floated, and it allowed Stevens to step in and give it a good crunch.
Serves to the forehand of Stevens, but serve is a little long. Her time before the second serve. We've seen 4 double faults from her. This one is good. To the forehand, and then there's a drop shot from Gauff behind her serve. Stevens is there. They're at the net. Volley to volley, and then, Stevens had the volley to put away. She took a big swing, and she's crouched down low with her head dropped, and she can't believe she's missed it.
Well, I don't think anyone can believe. You could hear the crowd reaction there, because she literally had an absolute sitter of a ball. And almost it was dangerous for Gauff, wasn't it? She was sort of right up at the net area. It could have either gone at her, could have gone into the corners. And I think she just got distracted, the fact that it was such an easy shot.
Well, you can't say that they haven't had their chances in this game, both of them. Deuce getting more and more important by the point this game. It's Gauff with a sneak approach to the net and a lovely cushioned volley there. That was really smart and brave as well.
Yeah. Well, that was shock tactics. We haven't seen that one from her, where she just decided to come forward, not on a normal kind of approach shot. She just took a risk, and it really paid off. She stuck her racket out. She was on the lunge with the volley, and it really paid off. Well played.
So a game point for a well-earned game. Backhand cross-court from Stevens is too long, and that's a big blow for Sloane Stevens to lose that game with all the chances, with the double faults from Gauff. But it is Gauff that pushes ahead, and she's now a set and 4-1. It does feel a lot tighter than the score of a set and 4-1, but ultimately she'll be sitting down very happy.
Yeah, that was a really impressive game to get through. You could see when she finished it, it was like really giving it the good fist pump. She worked so hard for that game. And yeah, she just sort of mentally challenged and met Sloane Stevens, who was asking a lot of questions, really coming up with some massive winners. I think also with the double faults, that could have been very costly. You could see how mentally she might have disintegrated just a little bit with the double faults, but shows you how far she's come and how quickly she's able to put those double faults behind her. A little bit the way Zverev does as well, actually. He's sort of quite similar in that department. Everyone is always eyeing up those service problems that he's had and sort of underlining it, asking him loads of questions about it in press conferences. Same thing with Coco Gauff. But, you know, I think they both handled it really well. They put it behind them, refocus, you know, think about things technically, and she's come up trumps in that last game. That was really, really good.
Yeah, everyone's got their vulnerabilities that they need to manage and focus on, and it's quite remarkable, because similarly with Gauff and with Zverev, it just sort of comes out of the blue. They'll go on these long stretches. I mean, Zverev can be unbreakable when it comes to his serve, and then all of a sudden he can't make one.
Yes.
It's quite extraordinary. It's like one of the best. He'll be one of the best servers and then one of the worst probably in the same match, and it is yeah, I mean, it happens so infrequently for him that I suppose he just tries to forget about it and move on, as you're saying.
Yeah, I think it takes a lot of work to sort of. I think you get to a point where it's rock bottom, actually, and I think that has happened to Coco Gauff, and it's definitely happened to Zverev, where you just think, well, it can't get any worse. So you almost have to laugh about it and just go back to basics and try and refocus on what you're working on the practical. But as we've always said, it doesn't matter how many times you practice a serve like that, and clearly she has worked on it, and so has he. But it's only when you're facing adversity and really highly pressurised situations that it will suddenly rear its ugly head, and it's controlling the mind at those particular moments, which is so difficult. And you can't train for that on a practice court. You can only ever put yourself in those positions and be able to try to challenge yourself with your mind when you're facing those adverse moments. And it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There are a lot of mental obstacles to get over, and I think players struggle with all the different parts of it. And now I think there'll be a little bit of a mental obstacle for Gauff to contend with, because she's put her tracksuit top on, she's got a towel around her shoulders, and there has been a delay. So I imagine that Sloane Stephens has called the trainer on. I didn't see that happen.
No, I didn't see that.
Unless, I mean, it could be Gauff.
Looking up here, actually, in the umpires. Kind of looking up here, so I don't know whether something's happened in the crowd. I'm not really sure.
Yes, we have a medical emergency is what we have. Let's see, it's just right below us, so we have to sort of stand up and strain our eyes. There is medical attention there for the poor member of the crowd who's not feeling particularly well, so we'll have to pause whilst this gets dealt with. So momentum very much going for Coco Gauff, but this will be a bit of a delay. They need to make sure that he gets the treatment that he needs, and he'll then make his way out of the stadium. But looks like things looking relatively positive. He's
kind of moving, isn't he, the gentleman?
Popped his feet up, and yeah, he's awake and speaking, so I'm sure that I'll just be checking his vital signs, make sure that everything's okay, and as we will have to wait for that. We have Coco Gauff sitting with a towel around her legs, and with the tracksuit top on, and with Sloane Stephens as well in a similar situation, because the sun's just gone behind the clouds, so it's a little bit cooler. So whilst we wait for the medical team to do their thing, let's check in with David Law. And David, you were watching the Salisbury and Ram match. I mean, it could not have been tighter, but it didn't go the way of Joe and Rajiv, did it? Oh, David's gone. Well, it is over, the match, to be fair to him. It was a tough loss. I think it was 14-12 in the final set tie-break, and a heartbreaker really for Joe and Rajiv, because they would have had match points.
Oh, it was. I mean, we had a screen in our commentary box here, and oh my goodness, it was nip and tuck all the way, and they had those match points, and some of the points that they played were extraordinary, weren't they? And Dodig was getting really fired up. He was really trying to pick his partner up, and what a heartbreaker for Joe Salisbury and Rajiv Ram. And actually, he really disintegrated his racket near me, Rajiv Ram, at the end of that match. I mean, I'm not sure what happens when you smash your racket on a clay court. I presume it's the equivalent of doing it at Wimbledon, and we know how the grass court specialists and groundsmen who take so much care over producing the grass courts at Wimbledon, you know, that to them, they're sacrosanct, and you just don't do that. But I would imagine on the clay it's pretty similar, because these courts take a lot of working and love, care and attention. And I know it's a harder surface, but I think it still does damage it, doesn't it? But I mean, he gave his racket an almighty crack 4 times, and the racket did not resemble a racket at the end of it. So I don't know what happens when you do that on a clay court.
I don't believe the fines are quite the same level. Wimbledon try and really penalise players with some hefty fines, but yeah, after each match the grounds team come out here on the clay, and they will move around just with their feet flattening the clay, because there'll be some lumps and bumps, some holes before they sweep it. So they really do sort of fix the little areas of the court, make sure it is in top-notch condition. And the round of applause is because the member of the crowd in question is now upright, and he is in a chair, and he will be making his way out of the stadium to receive the rest of the medical attention that he needs. But he's looking a lot better than he did 5 minutes ago, so medical team doing their job very well.
Yeah, there's 6 of them around him, so he got good attention straight away, thank goodness. And he's being lifted down the stairs now. Let's hope he feels better. Oh gosh, they're turning him around now. Decided to take him down the other way with his feet going down rather than his head sort of downwards, which wouldn't have been very comfortable.
Well, as we just wait for the final few moments for this to get resolved, we will just take a look on and reflect on the doubles. It's not been a great day for the Brits today. Earlier, Neil Skupski, his doubles campaign came to an end with a quarter-final loss to Marcel Granollers and Horacio Zeballos. Despite the loss, it's been a successful season for him.
We got off to a very good start. First set was some of our best tennis we've played all year. Yeah, I mean, everything was going well, serving well, returning was on fire. I think there was a close game in the second set that on, I think, Zeballos' service game, that there was probably 4 or 5 juices, and then they kind of snuck out of that. But then, yeah, they got a little bit of energy from that. So, yeah, it was unlucky. But overall, I thought it was a good team performance. Been another decent week. We wanted to go a lot further. But yeah, we're still progressing. It's still been a good season, and we go into the grass court season with a lot of confidence, and hopefully we can go further at Wimbledon than we have at the Australian Open and also the French.
Playing with Wesley Koolhof at the French Open was Neil Skupski as he went out a little earlier on. So players resumed here on court Philippe Chatrier. It is 7-5, 4-1 for Coco Gauff, and that pause in play might just have allowed Sloane Stephens to reflect and reset. It feels very tight, but when it comes to the score, Gauff has just got the control of this match. It's 15-all. Stephens is serving at the near end. She goes into the body of Gauff, plays the backhand cross court with good width, and it's a tough pick up for Gauff, and she can't do anything about that because it's a Stephens drive volley winner. The crowd has really filled up nicely now. 3 matches for the ticket holders to enjoy. And the serve from Stephens is into the net. Alex Zverev and Carlos Alcaraz, the next match out on court, and then we'll have a fresh crowd for the night session, a whole new stadium, starting not before 8:45 p.m. local time, and that will be Djokovic against Nadal.
Well, another stunning backhand up the line, just so well disguised and came from nowhere. Extra injection of pace once again, and she's becoming increasingly sort of disruptive, isn't she, on the court? You can't really predict what's going to happen next with Coco Gauff.
I think she just looks great. It feels like she could go up another couple of levels.
Yeah.
If Stephens upped it again, I think she'd respond. And as you say, that maturity from her.
She might have underestimated the level that Coco Gauff was capable of in this match.
Forehand from Gauff is good. She's going back behind Stephens, wrong footing her, and it works well. And now Gauff has got a break point. And if she breaks again for a 5-1 lead, then surely this match is as good as done.
Yeah, she looks a little dejected down there. She's sort of taking a long time in between points. She's walking very, very slowly. She's having to think about a lot of things. She really is running out of time in this match.
So Stephens with a mountain to climb. Down break point to the backhand of Gauff, and Stephens just not doing a huge amount with the shot, just trying to move Gauff around. He gets a little off balance on that backhand, but she's back into a good position here. Good depth from Stephens, and it's once again Stephens has found the baseline on the backhand. Now she finds more width, but Gauff is just she's throwing herself through the backhand, just trying to hang on to this rally. It's break point Coco Gauff for a 5-1 lead. It's a backhand from Stephens down the line, and Gauff finally nets, but my word, did she deal with a lot from Stephens in that point.
Yeah, she really did. Stephens battling hard just to gain the initiative in the rallies, and she was controlling that. It was Coco that was just absorbing it all, and they've had some terrific tussles in some of the rallies, haven't they? It's been very mesmerising to watch. I think this crowd really starting to enjoy this match. Good energy.
Juice on the Stephens serve. It's a must-win game for her. backhand is not very good. It's into the net. She got that one wrong, and she looks at her camps to say, that wasn't very good.
Yeah, it feels like a wasted point after all the hard work invested in the previous point, and then suddenly you dump one in the net like that, and that's the accumulated pressure mentally that Coco Gauff is putting on her.
She has looked under a lot of pressure, her Stevens. She's been searching for that higher level of her game. She's yet to find it, really. This is that first serve long. Second serve is short and attackable, and Gauff goes cross-court with the backhand, and now Gauff is just working the ball around. There's no real panic as long as she stays on the backhand side of Stevens. Now she goes to forehand, and it's an error from Stevens. It's a couple of not great points from her. She throws away the ball in disgust. It's a break of serve for Gauff, and she's one game away from the semi-finals.
Yep, she looks thoroughly fed up out here, and she doesn't seem to be able to find the solutions to the problem in front of her, which is Coco Gauff, who is applying so much pressure. She's attacking well, she's defending well, she's brought variety, she's kind of putting it all together in this match.
Yeah, ticking an awful lot of boxes is Coco Gauff, and good for her after a few years of getting used to the tour. And that backhand is too hot for Stevens to handle, so it's 15 love. Did reach the quarterfinals of Wimbledon last year, so this isn't new territory playing a quarterfinal, but very much getting to a semi. Doesn't like that ball toss and catches it. Bails out of the serve. 3 points away. Serve is short and attackable, but Stevens doesn't do anything with it, just rolls it long.
That's another wasted point, isn't it? And she seems to be losing her fight out here. She's not able to match Coco Gauff's energy or psychologically the battle that they've been involved in. It's all sort of drifted away right from that moment where she had those 3 games where she turned everything around in that first set, and then suddenly it's just evaporated.
Double fault from Gauff in the net. You can hear what the crowd think about that. It's never fun when you miss a shot like that, hit a double fault, and internally you think, oh, and then suddenly 15,000 people make that noise
Yes,
as well.
I know, collectively.
I know. That's how I feel too. Misses the serve, and she's at 30-15. Double faults have just been lurking, haven't been too much of an issue for her, but she doesn't like that ball toss either. Goes very quickly into some ball bounces, doesn't take much time at all, and then goes to the second serve and misses. And it just felt like it was quite rushed going back into that second serve. It's a double fault.
Yeah.
Number 6.
And also just a low ball toss, and didn't have any space to move up into it. It's amazing, isn't it? Just on the brink of perhaps her first ever semi-final, and she's just had those little doubts creep into her mind, and suddenly it's affected her.
Yeah, and if you're in the Stevens camp, you're thinking you've not made her pay for these double faults. Forehand from Gauff, because the serve is good, and the forehand goes higher now to the backhand side. There's a backhand slice from Gauff. It stays low, but Stevens doesn't mind on the forehand side. Finds a really good one now. Has a short ball. Oh, it's just squeezed into the baseline. It's a low volley from Stevens, who's now got to backtrack and play a shot, a forehand, but Gauff is there. But this one's going to get slammed away by Stevens. Again, good defensive work. Asking for one more ball is Coco Gauff, but Stevens was ready for it that time.
Well, incredible defensive skills. Coco Gauff just couldn't quite get enough depth on some of those balls, but definitely asking Sloane Stevens to have to hit, what, 3 extra shots in that rally?
Serve to the service line. It's a break back point for Sloane Stevens as she plays backhand cross court. A lovely backhand from Gauff. I could watch them play backhands cross court all day, but Gauff is the one that misses. And so Stevens does get that game on the board at 5-2, but it does feel like it's quite a mountain to climb.
Well, it does, except that, you know, she'll have in her head that there were 3 games that came and went pretty quickly in that first set where she was 4-1, 5-2. And, you know, similar. So she'll be, well, I can see she's furious with herself for those double faults in that last game. You know, that doesn't feel good, does it? It feels like you've just rushed, you've just given away that game, and she needed to put the hammer down, and she wasn't able to. So she's just left the door open a little bit for Sloane Stevens.
Yeah, and I just think that Sloane Stevens is the most deceptive player in so many ways. You know, she looks like she's slow on the court. She's not slow at all. She looks like she's not focused when she is. And then she looks like she's done when she's not. Then she gets back into it.
Exactly. So that's why you need to keep the pressure on mentally on a player like Sloane Stephens and not allow her back in, because if you just sort of throw the lifeline out there, she'll just grab hold of it and start finding her game again, finding the rhythm, the range. You know, she's so talented that she's capable of anything. You know, she could even still win these championships. You know, I would never ever rule her out.
100%. So Stephens serving to stay in this match, down a set and 5-2 to the 18-year-old Coco Gauff. It's a forehand in the net. It's not a good start from Stephens.
Yeah, that was a horrible forehand, wasn't it? She sort of flailed at it and turned the racket face over very quickly in the swing, and it just dumped into the bottom of the net. That did not look smooth at all.
I mean, you said it, Annabelle, the word wasteful from Stephens, and it's just a big feature of the Stephens career, really. It's not that you have to be achieving, of course, week in, week out, all the time and playing your best, but there is a lot of waste. There's a double fault.
Well, this is a horror game already, isn't it? Running out of time now, just 2 points away, and a massive, massive situation for Coco Gauff to make her first Grand Slam semi-final.
So love 30 for Gauff, 2 points away from that. And it feels like it's where she belongs in a Grand Slam semi-final. First serve is missed long, so the second serve from Stephens is good to the backhand of Gauff, and now Stephens finds a really nice backhand wide, but Gauff is moving well, and then Stephens finds the baseline. There's good defence from Gauff. She's hanging in, she's reaching, she's scrambling, and now she's found a short ball, and she hit a winner. How has she turned that point around? Stephens had full control of every element of that rally, but Gauff scrambling, scrapping, and getting the payoff, and with it, 3 match points.
Amazing turnaround in that point. You can see all the scuff marks across the baseline as she was scampering around trying to get herself in position.
Serve from Stephens is right to the service line. It's match point. Coco Gauff backhand through the middle of the court from Gauff as she plays the forehand down the line to the backhand of Stephens, which is very, very deep. It's right on the baseline, and now Stephens has got a short ball. She's coming forward. She plays a low volley. She does make it, but Gauff goes to the passing shot, doesn't quite find it. Oh, and the next one, it was there for her. The cross-court pass for Gauff, but she couldn't quite find it.
Wow, that was risky from Sloane Stephens, wasn't it? She took a chance on that, rolled the dice, came forward. It was not the most imposing of approach shots, but did well, stuck a racket out, got the volley back. She's rushing here. She's not even waiting for the crowd to stop.
Yeah, she's had enough. Match point, Coco Gauff, as she plays the backhand slice down low. So it's a tricky one for Stephens to pull up, but she's at the net. She plays the volley cross court, and Gauff is still just hanging in here. She's now having to move back, but it's gone long, and Coco Gauff wins. She beats Sloane Stephens in straight sets. She punches both fists to the air. So does her dad in the box. What a composed and professional performance from this 18-year-old American. She is so mature. Her game is now catching up with her maturity and her presence on the tour, and she is now a Grand Slam semi-finalist.
Well, thoroughly deserved. I have to say that was a very enjoyable match to watch, and Sloane Stephens, as you can imagine, is leaving the court pretty swiftly. She's not going to sign any autographs, it looks. She's very, very disappointed and despondent, but what a wonderful moment for Coco Gauff. I just enjoyed watching the way she, you know, she got that lead in the first set. She got pegged back. I thought she was very strong mentally to reset herself, compose herself again, and she started bringing in that variety, which did have an impact. But we saw everything from her today. As I said before, lovely, beautiful ground stroke. She stood up to it with that huge forehand from Sloane Stephens. She had to defend a lot. Slices, came forward, a few drop shots. We saw a bit of everything from her.
Well, let's hear from Coco Gauff. I'm sure she's delighted.
Coco, you are in the semi-finals of a Grand Slam for the first time. Last year you made the quarter-finals here. Now you're in the semi-finals and you're looking so good. How does it feel?
I feel so happy right now. Words can't explain. Last year in the quarterfinal, it was a tough loss for me, and I think that match really made me stronger to better prepare for moments like today and the moments that I will face in the next round.
Good. And playing Sloane, Very difficult opponent. It looked effortless when Sloane plays, and she doesn't make any mistakes. How difficult is she as an opponent? What did you have to do differently?
Yeah, last time I played her, I lost. So I'm glad that today it went different. And honestly, I just told myself to just stay mentally there. I know that there were going to be some shots that I probably should have made, and there's going to be some shots that she gets in the court that probably no other player gets in the court. So I think it was just a mental challenge today.
Nice. You are very different because about 7 years ago, I heard there's this girl in America, Coco Gauff, she's going to be great. And it's very rare that we can predict the future. But with you, you are here, you have a ride, and we see very big things. Do you see that for yourself?
I mean, yeah, obviously I believe in myself, but I think when I was, like even last year, I think I was kind of too focused on trying to fulfill other people's expectations. And I think it's just enjoy life. I mean, I know no matter how good or bad my career is, I think I'm a great person. So I think that's a message for all the young players out here that your results, and even in life in general, your results or your job or how much money you make doesn't define you as a person. So just know that if you love yourself, who cares what anyone else thinks?
Nice. Bravo. And I have to ask you, is it true that you thought getting your high school degree is more difficult than getting to the semifinals of the Roland Garros?
Yes. Just because I know how hard it was to do school and play tennis on the road, and I think sometimes I get other players in general get out of sight with life, and we kind of think that tennis is the most important thing in the world, and it's not. So I think getting my high school diploma meant a lot to me.
I wish I did the same. Thank you very much, Coco. Qualifié pour le demi-finale. Coco Gauff. Nice, Coco.
What an extraordinary young woman she is. 18 years old, and she's just saying all the right things, but it seems like she really believes them, and it's a big change for her because it felt like results were everything when she was sort of 15, 16 and doing so well. But now you can see she's settled into herself as a person, and that means that she can now go and play tennis.
Oh, she's just so engaging, isn't she? I still can't believe she's just 18 years of age, and how refreshing to hear somebody that young saying, tennis isn't the only thing in life, and I've learned that, and I'm so glad, she's done her, or she says she's so glad that she's done her studies because it's taught her a lot more about life, which is very, very important, and very to keep grounded and understand it is a sport, it's a game, it's entertainment, and there's a lot more things going on in the world that are really important, and tennis is not the only thing. So you very rarely hear players talk like that. I think she's got a really good head on her shoulders.
Nevertheless, I'm sure she wants to win this tournament.
Yeah.
She wants to win this title. She's got through to the semi-finals. She's not dropped a set. She's won 2 of those sets 6-love. Even Iga Świątek has dropped a set on her way to the quarter-finals. Can she go all the way?
I think it's going to be difficult to say whether she will, in terms of what Świątek does, because I think Świątek is a better player in every department and just has a level above Coco Gauff's. But I'll never say never, because anything can happen in these matches. And I think she's doing all the right things, and I think she possibly could get through to the final. I think certainly I would pick her, maybe. But then Trevisan is an unknown quantity in the semi-final, isn't she? It's going to be interesting to see how that match goes, but she's definitely going about her business in the right way, and I think she's going to have a lot of crowd support.
Yes, it will be Martina Trevisan in that semi-final. So, Coco Gauff, what an extraordinary young woman. Annabelle Croft, thank you so much.
Thank you, Naomi,
for joining us for that one. That was an awful lot of fun. So we're going to have a switch around in the commentary box for the next match. Annabelle's off, and Naomi Brodie will be in, and David Law has joined me as well. And David, I mean, what an impressive young woman Coco is, to be able to speak like that, but as I'm saying, even believe it, and then be able to play like that, the composure. She's just taken out Sloane Stephens. She's in the semi-finals.
She's something else. She's just written on the camera, dream big, and she's been dreaming big for a long, long time, and those dreams are starting to come true, and she looks the part. She really does. That's not an easy opponent to beat, and especially as it doesn't feel like Coco Gauff is the finished article yet, and yet she's already in a Grand Slam semi-final aged 18. Fascinating semi-final against Martina Trevisan, who is an unknown quantity as well. So it's really going to be interesting to see which way that one goes. But I think that result just now is very, very good news for the sport. I think Sloane Stephens, anytime I watch her play, I sort of slightly wish for more, because I know how good she is. But for the future, an 18-year-old like Coco Gauff coming through, being in a semi-final, this is next step territory now.
Yeah, it is very impressive, and it's exciting. It feels like she's an awful lot older than she is, and she's doing, there's so many interviews for us to do. I think she's on interview number 4 at the moment. She hasn't even left the court yet before she has to sign the interviews and do all of her bits and pieces. But she speaks so well, so I don't think the interviews will be phasing her at all.
No.